Shalom and good evening. Today is February 28th and it is 145th day of the war between Israel, Hamas and Hezbollah. And the anchor says that there are 2 weeks before the holy month of Ramadan for the Muslim people in Israel. There are big discussions with the government about who will be allowed to the Temple Mount, as usually hundreds of thousands of people, Muslims, go up to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. But before all of this, and before other stories, here are 2 names and photographs of the 2 soldiers that have fallen in battle today in Gaza. Yiftach Shachar, 25 years old, from Faran. He's an officer in a special elite unit. Itai Sayef, 24 years old, from Yerucham. He was a company commander. May their memory be blessed. 10 days before the Ramadan, the holy month of the Muslims, the war cabinet has intervened and is deciding that there will be no restrictions and no limitations for the Arab Israeli Muslims to walk up and arrive to the Temple Mount, even though the war is going on. And this is in contrast to Ben Gvir, who is the far-right Knesset member, he's the Minister of the National Security of Israel, which he was completely towards limiting the entrance of any Muslims to the Temple Mount. So the war cabinet is taking over and they're asking to override Ben Gvir's decision of limitations. And they will allow 50 to 60,000 Muslims to enter to the Temple Mount. There it is in Jerusalem. And that's just as the beginning. And if everything will go smoothly, they will allow more to come. So this is big news for the Muslims for the whole month of Ramadan. It's a big thing here in Israel because the war could really stir things up in the Temple Mount if the Arab Israeli Muslims are restricted. And it reads, first report, Pirsum Rishon, Lo yutlu hagbalot, there will not be any limitations al Arviyei Israel, the Arab Israelis, Ramadan, during the Ramadan. This is the war cabinet that changed the decision. The next story is about the law regarding the recruitment or enlistment to the military. Before I'll explain, let's listen to the Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant. He says, every law of enlistment to the army, to the military, that will be approved by all the parties will be accepted by me. But without all the parts of the coalition agreeing to this, I will not submit the law. That's a threat. He says the shared responsibility of all sectors of society is crucial for us winning the war with Hamas. So they're going to explain a little bit about his threat here, but really this law of enlistment to the military is about all sectors being enlisted, and not only the secular Jews and the national religious Jews. In Israel, there's also the Orthodox religious Jews that do not serve in the army because they study in the Torah. They study Torah in the yeshivot, or yeshivot, how they say. And this has been going on for years and years and years. And this divides the country in many ways. It divides the governments. This dispute about who needs to serve, whether all of the sectors or just the secular and the national religious, it has been going on for many years. So since we're in war, in a heavy war, the law of enlistment is very close to being passed. And there's just a storm around this again in the government. And in the next few days, we'll see what happens regarding this law. The next segment is about the local elections that happened yesterday. It happened in all the cities of Israel except for the cities in the south and the north that have been evacuated. 11 municipalities or cities that have not gone through these local elections. This is a long segment about the different cities, the elected mayors and compared to the others, and the percentages and all. We'll move on to the next. And now to the deal of the hostages. Ismail Haniyeh, which is the head of the political wing of Hamas, he says that Hamas is willing to be flexible in this negotiation plan. They're not requiring a complete cease of the war. It seems like they're not requiring it, but it's still unclear. Qatar and Egypt, who are the middle countries, are really trying to push to an agreement before the Ramadan, holy month of the Muslims, coming up. So everybody is waiting once again for Hamas's answer regarding the hostage deal. Meanwhile, the families of the hostages group is organizing a walk from the border of Gaza until Jerusalem. This will take 4 days, and this is to ask to release all of the hostages in one go. Here's a father. His son Nimrod has been kidnapped to Gaza on October 7th, and he says his son is a soldier. And he's crying for the government during this vigil, that the government will work on releasing all of the hostages and not just in stages. While his son is a soldier, he'll be last in line if he's released. The reporter is saying there is a true, authentic effort to try to come to an agreement before the Ramadan. The Israeli delegation is still in Qatar. Yesh hitkadmut, there is progress, but there's still parim. Parim are gaps in between the two sides. And now to the northern border. The northern border is very hot. Hezbollah has been shooting barrage after barrage in the last few days. 60 rockets yesterday, 60 rockets before that into Israeli land. And this morning, 11 more rockets, and it hit an apartment in Kiryat Shmona, one of the major cities in the north, very close to the border. The owner of the apartment is not in his apartment. He's in Eilat. He's evacuated and he's safe in Eilat. But this is rare because Hamas is taking responsibility for this barrage today. And they're saying, P'giya yashira, a direct hit in a building in Kiryat Shmona, ein nifga'im, there are no injured. So the evacuated families are still in hotels, and see how crucial it is they're away and they're safe in the hotels. And now we are in this story of the disappearing of Haymanut Kasau. She's a 9-year-old Ethiopian girl. The story has been in the news also yesterday in Israel. It's been 72 hours since they've last seen her. Police units and other security units and many volunteers like this guy are working very hard, including helicopters and everything, searching for Haymanut Kasau. He says, I'm walking around with her picture. The way she was dressed in the day, she disappeared. And we're just looking for every little hint of where she went through. And 72 hours is a long time, so they're expanding the search to further and further places. She actually, she immigrated from Ethiopia in the year 2020, and she lives in the Ir Tzfat, which is a religious Jewish city in the north of Israel. So here we are with the northern border, basically in a war. Haymanut Kasau is missing, and the police and many volunteers are searching for Haymanut in the midst of all of this. This is the commander of the Tzfat police, and he's explaining how they are also using some special technology in the search. So I want to say in Israel, it is very rare that a child goes missing. I know in other countries in the world, including the US and other countries in Asia, it is not that rare. There is a threat, but in Israel, it is almost unheard of that a child goes missing, and here we are with a 9-year-old that's just disappeared for 72 hours, and there's absolutely no clue of what happened here. So you can keep Haymanut in your prayers. She has siblings, she has family and friends here. You can keep her in your prayers. And for more updates, for more stories, you can visit us at allisrael.com. Follow us on our social media. Like this video if you liked it, and share it with your friends. This is Rotem Magen for All Israel News.